Welcome back. My name is Yana the Heretic, and this is my channel, The Unpopular Opinion Becoming Popular, where I discuss the hexagrams of the I Ching and how they play a role in our lives in the theme of each week. And to be honest, I have to catch up, so this is us catching up. I just started a new job to support this passion of sharing knowledge and spreading the seeds of authenticity. So we're going to talk about the gate of values, which is considered to be the cauldron. And the gate of values actually was in transit October 19th through the 24th. Bear with me, I have to adjust to my new schedule. And the gate of values is a tribal gate. It is considered a tribal ruler from the splenic center, and it is actually the only gate that connects to the sacral center. So we have a ton of instinct, sensing, and intuition coming from gate 50 and going right into the sacral. This is the cauldron, and the cauldron is a very magical item. This is an item where it can be used for the greater good, and it can be used for malefic spells at the same time. So, like any gate, there's really a darker side here, which is the type of tribal ruler that gets looked up to because they have principles that everyone listens to. They have these values, and sometimes these values are actually harming another type of species or another group of people, so it is definitely something that becomes a fear, and we see that a lot playing in our politics today as we get closer to 2027, where things are breaking apart. These values of old are actually breaking apart, and we're seeing the most toxic levels play out in the next 2 years, because we're really going through all these phases of the black and white and merging, this new, more expansive sensitivity in general. So to be able to live among very much an individuality of people, this is the age of individuality. So how are we going to really fit into the cauldron? The cauldron signifies, the tribe. This is the instinct and the values of all people in your tribe, and people that follow you. There's definitely, like I had mentioned, tyrannical governments where you have to follow values, like in Russia, for instance, my homeland. You have to follow these values or else you're threatened, and there's always someone listening, right? Is what, my grandparents say. And it gets really intense. Like, oh, well, we have to stay in line, because we're afraid. Now, the benefit of the cauldron is that we're streamlining many different types of values. This is the type of person you are when no one is around, when you make a move and then you have to second guess what you did, because to be honest, you're like, wow, like, is that, like, what am I going to do with that? Did I choose right? Because there is this responsibility to Minerva. This is the second gate of Minerva, and she's the Greek goddess that directs energy. And it is very fast, because you have to be on your feet in order to save lives, to save your people, and prevent, somebody else taking over, in war or famine. You have to make sure you have your resources in check. So this is why there is a fear present here. This is the underlying fear of a tribal ruler, where, you want to have these laws and values, because people are going to naturally gravitate toward these gate 50s, and they're going to be like, what do we do about this? Like, this person got out of line and they did something horrible. Or we have disease that is plaguing the land. What do we do about this? And that's when the gate 50s have to basically streamline all of this intuitive knowledge, based off of their culture, based off of their environment, based off of, shared values of the people, because, they get to know the people, and, they are almost the voice of many, and they have to decide. They're the ones that are going to be listened to. Like, okay, well, we're going to do this. We're going to make sure that this person gets punished in this way, so that, they learn their lesson. Or, we're going to pick the last of, this herb to help cure these people, and we're going to oversee, them, and make sure we have water. So these are the facets that gate 50 really adds to the tribe. And, each culture has different ones. They have different expectations of what to do and how to be, specific to their culture. And as a heretic, I always hope that there is like a base level of being able to congregate with people and respect their culture without, demeaning certain, adding stereotypes to the mix, basically, and demeaning the actual race or culture. And it is the fear of responsibility. These people have a fear. The spleen is always about a fear, and this fear makes them act fierce, makes them act on their feet, because they have to say yes or no. They have to react very quickly. That is what the spleen is about and what it's doing. And the cauldron is the synthesis of all values, but it's also about food and medicine, and sharing food and medicine, because if you're cooking everything all in one cauldron, you want to make sure that everyone gets to eat, that everyone gets to put in their allergies, or you want to make sure that you're not poisoning like one person. And if they're allergic to something in the medicine or in the food, let's separate these ingredients, let's add these in bowl to bowl. So this is about protection. This is about protecting the tribe. And Gate 50s aren't so much protecting individual people, they're protecting the whole. And if they do have the gate 27 in the sacral, that's when they add a lot more compassion and nourishment. They're less just like a rigid ruler, and more so adding this gate of caring to the process, where they might actually oversee, a specific person. And I believe like this reminds me of Lilu Dallas, from Fifth Element. This energy of just like beauty and care and empathy, and especially when there is the harmonic gate 27 involved, because they really care about each life. It hurts them, it's as if that each person, each body is actually like a part of them, and if they die, then a part of them dies. And they form the channel of preservation. It's a design of custodianship. And it was in transit just for the like one day, the 20th, so we might have felt some extra Cancer energy, let's say. The zodiac of Cancer, the nourishing person, and this is specifically also the gate 50 is also the gate of teaching children how to survive. And that's where this fierce mother energy comes out as well, because you want to make sure that your children know how to protect themselves in the wild. You want to make sure they don't talk to strangers. You want to make sure that they don't eat rocks, or pennies, or that they're not like jumping off cliffs or something. So you have to teach these children how to function in this life, because they are the lineage. They are your future. They are the future of man and society. So this is very much the teacher as well, and teaching children. Let's see. Well, this also, in the malefic, going back to the malefic aspect, this is also the tribal rulers that are malefic, right? Opposite of Lilu. This is like the I forget the dude's name, but the head of the Mormon cult, and the type of person that just manipulates people, because maybe they do have the sales pitch in their head at first, and then they start to believe and aggrandize themselves, and like think they are God, or they're the voice of God, and they have these values, and these values don't make any sense. They end up breaking down. So this is considered to be the gate of the lawbreakers as well. These are people that create their own values that, don't, make sense to others. Like, although it makes sense to their tribe and they have this following, but that doesn't mean that it's inside that cult everything is legal for the laws of the United States, or the laws of the country, or the laws of the culture. There are things that we have done in our past that used to be okay and used to be seen as normal. that leave a bad taste in your mouth, and you just look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe that we let that happen. You know, this is something that actually brings a taste to the equation, where you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to associate myself with that at all anymore. I'm creating my own values. And it's really important to know if you have this gate. It's a very powerful, and it can be very taxing, a taxing gate. People always asking you for your opinions, and you really want to know how to use this to your benefit and to the benefit of all, so that your cauldron doesn't turn into the magical center of malefic energy. Yeah. You know, the spleen is something that is very wise to know if you have, because it gets you into your own sense of survival. And if you do have any questions or concerns, or you're curious if you have splenic definition, it's a very psychic center, it's a very primitive center, please comment below, and you can send me your birth information, your time, all these things, and I will look it up for you and give you some pointers whether or not you have this gate. This is about creating defense, because that is what the spleen is for. It's your defense mechanism. So it is literally the T cells that stand up on your skin. It is the hairs that stand up on your body, and believe it or not, that's how you sense things that are around you. Sometimes you'll get a chill and you feel like something brushed up against you. That could be your intuition telling you something. And if you don't know how to read the signs, you know, you may miss the message from the ether, you know. And you don't want to miss that shit, you know? So how are you going to make this cauldron the vessel of the sages? Yet again, how are we going to bring what is gold from our lineage and brush off all the rest of the stuff, you know? Just take what's like the best and most potent thing from your lineage and create your own potent cauldron. It is funny that personally in my life, my bosses were discussing how we're going to run the business, and they actually have the cross of laws and the cross of planning together, and it's just very interesting to see that play out. And they consider their values to be at the highest nth, you know, and that is exactly what we need in the business that we're doing. And because it involves like biohazard, so you have to make sure that everything's on point, and the ability to teach that is a very potent place to be. And I'm always impressed with people that actually stick to their laws and make sure that everybody knows to stick to their laws, because there is the potential to affect people, the potential to, fuck up and, not clean something efficiently. And then it would result in somebody getting sick or ill or getting an infection. And, that is absolutely unacceptable. So that is generally how these people see things. And it's not something that you should be afraid of, because there's just this passion to do things correctly, and there's a reason for it. So, if you ask enough questions, you'll get that golden reason typically. And if you don't understand that reason, maybe that's not the tribe for you. And that's how this age is separating. And everyone's got their own thing to say about traditional ways or matters they like to dissect. We're going to see a lot of dissecting of traditional values in general, and you will find your niche. You will create your niche or your fame from this. So don't forget to comment your birth info. The questions of this week were: who do you defend in this life? How much effort does it take? And is it a constant pressing matter in your environment? Defending people's rights is very prevalent right now. So how are you standing up and defending the tribe that you care about? And is it even really a taxing matter for you specifically? Or are the laws in your favor right now? And how does that fit together, How is the tribal leader being nourished in your community? Where can we find compassion for our leaders and help them? What laws do you desire to change? Write down what first comes to mind. How much heart do you instill in your message? I live in the most liberal place possible, and it can get very passive aggressive. So these questions are for everyone that feels like they can't do anything about anything. And I hope to ignite your passion. Not saying that I'm on any political side or whatever, but it is nice to be able to see people talk about what they're passionate about, especially now. If you were to have a tribe, what would it look like? What are your people interested in? And what are they being taught? And what values are being preserved through the ages? That is really important. There's a lot of forgotten, ancient and sacred texts and magic and lore and, potential secrets of the soil that are forgotten. So go to your ancestors however you do so, whether it's talking to them in person, whether it's talking to them spiritually. Make sure you preserve the values that are a part of your lineage. I can't stress that enough. And next week, we are going to see another gate of Minerva, the gate of the game player. Definitely watch that video, and I will see you there.